From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson. Usually you see me here with my friend Eric Rosen, but Eric once again took the night off, so hopefully he'll be joining us next week. Now, because of the subject matter and the nature of tonight's show, we're not taking phone calls, but you can still see reruns of the show on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And you can also contact us on Instagram and Snapchat. Tonight, our show is with a little bit of a twist. We're going to be blending in sports with music. And tonight, it's going to happen with two very special guests of mine, and they also happen to be two very good friends of mine. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend, Anthony Basil Watson, and also joining us is his brother-in-law, Joe Howard. Anthony, welcome back, man. How are you?
I'm fine. It's good to be back, Jamie. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us. Hello, Joe. Congratulations, by the way, because you just recently got married.
Yeah, well, about three years ago, but yes.
Still recent.
They say that marriage is bliss. Is that true?
It certainly is. It certainly is. With marrying into a great family like I did, and with God as our leader, as a couple, anything is possible. So it's going really well. So yeah.
Now, we mentioned before that this show is going to be with a bit of a twist. As you know, this is an Olympic year. The 2016 Summer Olympics is going to be happening right around the corner. But you're here because not only are you going to be performing for us in a little bit, but you're also trying out for the 2018 Winter Olympics, correct?
Yeah, the 2018 games in South Korea.
If I'm not mistaken, you're going to be performing in or hoping to compete in the skeleton and possibly the bobsled?
Well, skeleton is what I've been in. Bobsled is kind of what I, default to when skeleton isn't going so well, like when it's winding down to the end of a season and some of our pilots need brakemen. I'm always anxious to get back on the ice. But 2018 is 2 years away. We have a really strong national team. So, just looking to be competitive on any circuit that I make, whether it's America's Cup, Europa Cup, or World Cup. But, 2018 is going to be a strong year for the United States, but I'm looking, my sights are set on 2022. So we'll see what happens in those games when they're in China.
Interesting. So the 2022 games are going to be in China.
Yes.
Do you know what town?
Beijing.
Also, they are going to be in Beijing.
Beijing in the wintertime, so that may open another circuit in the world, the Asian circuit, where they compete in Japan, South Korea, and China, since all the tracks are in that area.
This is interesting. I think this could be the first city, or Beijing could be the first city that hosts two Olympics, a winter and a summer, correct?
Yes, possibly, yeah.
Now, you're going to be competing in the skeleton. Everybody that's a fan of the winter sports knows about the bobsled and the luge. Skeleton is kind of sort of new, although they've been run at the last few Olympics. For those who may not be familiar, what is the skeleton?
Simply put, picture a lunch tray with two steel rods on the bottom. You lay on your stomach like that, and you go about 70, 80 miles an hour on your stomach headfirst down the same mountain of ice that the bobsled and luge.
So basically, it's like luge, only in reverse.
Oh, yeah.
And how long have you been competing in the skeleton?
3 years. I'm going into my fourth season this coming winter.
What made you decide to compete in skeleton?
Well, it was the only USA sport that actually had tryouts because years before that, I was trying to be a sprinter. I ran in high school, I ran in college, and then I ran in the Junior Olympics as a young adult. And then I got injured. And then when I tried making a comeback, I was still quick, but I just wasn't as fast. So, looking through. One day I just sat down, went through every single USA team page, and then came across bobsled and skeleton, and then in big words it said recruitment. Do you think you have what it takes to, so I took a combine test where they tested you in speed, agility, and strength, and scored really high, and, it's been history ever since then, every year coming back.
This is really interesting because when people think of the Olympics, they usually associate the Summer Olympics first because that's where all the glamour is. That's where they compete in basketball and track and field and gymnastics. The Winter Olympics don't really get that much attention except for when it's a really special moment. For example, 1980 and the Miracle on Ice, or maybe figure skating and hockey. But you were really attracted to the skeleton. Why?
It was the only sport that took tryouts.
That's interesting.
Before skeleton, I was considering boxing and handball.
Aha.
So-
Two other sports that are also closely associated with the Summer Olympics. When you first decided to work in the skeleton, what were your impressions of it?
I didn't really know much. At the beginning stages, to be honest, it was just an opportunity for me to be a USA athlete, because as a kid, I grew up running. I played soccer, I played basketball, I did track and field. I did a lot of sports that required you to, to be active, fit, and, good at running. And, I actually enjoy running. Not a whole lot of people enjoy running. So, I'm actually one of the few people that when people say, oh, we got to run, I'm like, let's do it,
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, when everything came full circle, it was just, what are my options? And if I have to learn something new and get good at it, that's what I'll do. And that's basically what this was. Because before that, I vaguely knew what skeleton was. Everyone knew what bobsled was because of the Cool Runnings movie. So there's not a time of day that myself or my teammates, when we tell people what we do, the first thing we hear is, so the Jamaican bobsled team, like Cool Runnings. I was like, it kind of comes with the territory. So
It's interesting that you mentioned Cool Runnings because your story is kind of sort of like Cool Runnings, but you're competing individually and you're representing Team USA, correct?
Team USA, yes, correct. But I am exploring options of, competing for the Jamaican team.
Really?
So we will see what happens there, but nothing's official. They've approached me with the opportunity to slide for them, because they don't have a skeleton team. So I'd be the first Jamaican skeleton, slider if I ever do make it to the Olympics for Jamaica. But, that's something that I haven't really made up my mind on yet, because I'm an American at the end of the day, and, it's stars and stripes forever,
Mm-hmm. For the record, your family was born and raised in Jamaica, correct?
Yeah, my mom wasn't. My mom is Puerto Rican. My
Nice.
dad was born and raised in Jamaica. So yeah, so I guess that's where I get my quick speed from,
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in South Jersey.
Where in South Jersey to be
A
exact?
small town, well, not a small town now, but a town called Vineland.
Ah, very nice. You actually share the same hometown as a current Major League Baseball superstar, which is Mike Trout.
Yep, he grew up in the neighboring city, Millville, which is bitter rivals with Vineland.
Interesting. Very interesting. So let's talk more about the skeleton. This is a really intriguing competition because not only did you mention that these athletes are going at really quick speeds, 70 to 80 miles an hour, but it could also be potentially dangerous. Unfortunately, we've seen situations, for example, in the last Olympics where a competitor from the Republic of Georgia unfortunately passed away during a training run. Do you worry about a potential injury or casualty in training?
Not at all.
You're pretty fearless.
I won't say fearless. There are definitely days that I'm afraid, depending on the track and depending on the ice conditions and, things like that. But, a lot of people, they let fear paralyze them and they let it stop them from, really testing their athleticism. Because in my mind, what I tell most people when they ask me, are you afraid? And I'm like, well, no. I was like, it's a sport. Sports were never intended or invented to, be fearful. There are some sports that I wouldn't do. I won't do downhill skiing because I don't know how to control that kind of speed. But, someone that started at a young age has cultivated their skill and their craft, so you learn how. In every scenario, every situation you find yourself in, you've you learn how to deal with it. I've had bad accidents. I have burn marks on my body. I I got teeth, knocked out of my head.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, like, injury comes with it. But, like, if your first thought every single time you get into the start house or you get to the start line is, like, what am I, am I going to hurt myself? And, like, you've already ruined your run. You got to be clear. You got to think clear. You got to be relaxed. My teammates, I'm grateful for them because in a lot of times, like when I first started and even some cases, you're just having a bad day. And, like, you talk to people about it, and the first thing they tell you is, like, look, you got to relax. And for the longest time, I didn't know what relaxing was because even though I was breathing, I was still mentally not there. And a teammate of mine took me aside, and he's just like, look, when people tell you to relax, that's literally don't think about anything. Don't, stress about anything. He's like, just be. He's like, just let the sled do the work, get on, and just have fun. And a lot of people forget how to do that. And, like, I have fun in what I do. So, there's never a bad day. There are bad days, but, like, at the end, you always find something to be positive about.
This actually leads into training methods. Exactly how do you train for something like this?
Well, there's really no specific way. Being a USA athlete, yeah, we do have like a vigorous like lifting schedule, like sprint training, push track time, and different things that you learn to help you become a better slider. But the only way to practice is to get on the ice, and everything plays in the factor. The wind plays a factor because if it's snowing, it'll blow snow into the track. And then you got slower curves. Like if the ice melts one day, that little sleekness on the ice will speed it up about, 2 mph. And, ice conditions, based on where it falls below zero, above zero determines how soft or how hard the ice is going to be. And you have to adjust and, you have to be really, you have to have a decent to a strong IQ so that you know how to get the best performance, on any given circumstance and any given day.
Have you done any World Cup matches?
I have not yet.
How often do you compete?
I had the opportunity to, forerun a lot this year, which for like some big competitions and some of the America's Cup competitions this past season on some new tracks that I hadn't been on before. So, I got to compete on the Vancouver track in Whistler, Canada. And, that's the fastest track in the world where some people have been clocked almost at 95 miles per hour.
Wow.
So, the G-forces alone, that kind of thing, you don't really, for your first time there, you kind of want to just take it easy. So, I was able to, and like when you forerun, you get free ice time because, the Olympics being a nonprofit organization and skeleton and bobsled being amateur sports, there's no leagues in America for these kind of sports. So, everything that goes into funding a season comes out of my pocket. So, as athletes, we rely heavily on sponsorships, donations, and, things. And, basically, it basically comes down to if you're passionate enough about it, because it's not an easy thing asking people for, money to help you do something that they think is crazy.
Talk about some of the places where you competed. You mentioned Whistler, which in itself is an iconic place to compete in the skeleton. Where else have you run before?
Well, my favorite places obviously are Lake Placid. That's where it all began for me. And Lake Placid is one of the most technical tracks in the world. Some of the best sliders on the World Cup circuit hate coming here because this track is just a beast to them. But, this is where I got my start. So, I take it as it comes. I've been to Salt Lake City, the site of the 2002 Olympics, and, Calgary. And I guess I don't want to say Whistler's my favorite, but Whistler was one that definitely, really made me reconsider if this is something that I really wanted to do or not. So that's just a handful.
Everyone knows about Lake Placid. It's in our neck of the woods. I'll bet you didn't know this, but the place where they had the Olympic Village used to be a prison. A little known fact. The former prison once housed all of the Olympic athletes. So there's your bit of trivia right there. But one thing I know about Lake Placid is that it holds a ton of memories. When you think 1980 and the Lake Placid Games, you think of the Americans beating the Russians on the hockey rink. When you went to Lake Placid the very first time, had you been familiar with or heard of the aura of those 1980 games?
Not much. I grew up I don't want to say underprivileged, but I grew up not having much. But luckily for my parents and they never really made it about what we didn't have. The stuff that we did have, they always made it seem like we had more than enough. So but we really didn't have television. And I mean, like, I was born in '89, so I mean, like, I was born literally as the '80s era was ending. So I grew up in the '90s. So I mean, like, when I became like a teenager and stuff, I never really paid much attention to winter sports because like I was all hyped up in basketball and track and field. It wasn't until like I actually got there, did some like Olympic history and the movie Miracle came out.
Of course.
I know that's what brought everyone's attention back to that moment in time because in those days when I did more research, that was when the Soviet Union had just invaded the Middle East and they were a real force. And, like, that game alone, like, was a statement, like, as to the heart of every American athlete and every American that was behind the hockey team that beat the Soviets. Because in those days, the Soviets were beating people, by a wide margin.
Mm-hmm. They had the best team in the world for at least 20 years.
Uh-huh. And, they were beat by a bunch of young, spirited college kids. So, the first place that we went was the Olympic Training Center. So, like, I was being a typical tourist, taking pictures of anything that said USA on it, meeting new people that came from all different walks of life, different parts of the United States, all that had the same dream is that, they wanted to have the letters USA on their back. And so after our combine test, we took a drive into town and we went to the 80s rink. Now, if you're a USA associated athlete or anything like that, you get access to the ice rink, and we got to go down to the ice, got to sit in the team box, and just take it in. That's when it became real to me in a way. And everywhere you look, you see flyers and posters of 4-3, 1980, because it's an iconic moment, and they cherish that there. That's a real landmark, and like right outside of there was the Olympic Oval where they did speed skating in the 1930s. There was Mirror Lake right behind, like the main strip of town. It's very small, but in that small town they have like a lot of big iconic, like landmarks and that like really like represent the town and the USA really well.
Take us into the mind of a skeleton athlete. You're at the starting point, and then all of a sudden, you're speeding down that track. What goes into your mind as you're going down those 70 to 80 miles an hour?
Oh, crap. Especially when you're on a track that you've never slid on before, like your eyes are really wide, like you have bad form because you want to see everything that's coming. The more comfortable you get with the track, the less you have to do. Like my very first ride from the top of Lake Placid, I had my head up and my shoulders off the sled, which is bad because your shoulders are what help you steer. So the sled was just going all over the place. I almost flipped here and there, and then after a while, now when I slide on Lake Placid, I can keep my head down. I keep my shoulders down, like I keep good form. Sometimes, like I said, you have an off day. So I mean, like my form will just be sloppy. But you get comfortable. It's repetition. It's like golf, like you don't just become, like a good golfer, with a few swings. It's a cultivated game that, like I said, the weather has something to do with it. You don't get your swing right every single time. You may underestimate it. It's a game that always you have to be in tip-top shape. And the same thing for skeleton. But it all starts in your head. I mean, like sometimes the start house is like a really, really tense atmosphere because everyone is really wanting to do their best and, no one really wants any distractions. And, like some people, when they have a bad run, it's just like, you just don't really want to say anything to them because they're in their own head. But one thing that I was told was just like the day that this stops becoming something that you consider fun is the day you need to retire. And it's true because there have been days where I just wasn't having fun and I contemplated walking away, but now I'm like I said, I mean, like, thank God I have good teammates because they said there's no such thing as a bad run. If you make it from the top to the bottom on your sled, take that and go with it because you need at least something to keep you wanting to do this.
For the record, how long is the track itself that a skeleton competitor goes down through?
Well, in Lake Placid, our track is 1.5 miles or 1.25 miles long, and you get down there in about 55 seconds.
Interesting. And you mentioned that you need your shoulders in order to steer the actual sled. In addition to that, are there other ways to try and steer the sled to a point where you not necessarily have to be perfect, but keep you in contention? For example, for a medal.
You know the song Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we steer, literally.
Uh-huh.
In straightaways, if you don't want to shoulder steer in a straightaway because that'll put you in a wall. You know, like in your sleds, especially when you're sliding on metal, you have rounds, and then towards the back of the sled you have spines. So, you know, the rounds, based on your balance point, you could be skidding, and in the spines, you know, like you'll be cutting a lot of ice, you'll be slowing down. So it takes like a really, really, really precise method of learning your balance point, learning how to lay on your sled, knowing where to use your shoulders, because most people, they dig a shoulder like that. That's it. Literally, on my sled that I have now, all I have to do is that, and if I do that minimal shoulder movement, I'll be like grazing walls.
Wow.
So, you know, like in straightaways, I use my head because your head is like an udder. You know, like the wind's hitting you this way, you tilt your head that way, it takes a whole nother shift and it shifts you that way. You know, in emergency situations, you drop a toe. That tilts the nose direction of your sled. And then in most double pressures or pressure turns, you use a head, or you not your head, you use your shoulder, or you use your knee. Your knee kind of balances, you know, like where you are under the pressure to kind of set your sled in the direction you want it to go. But for the most part, anyone will tell you that you don't want to steer too much. They say let the sled do most of it. If you need to, help it here, help it there, but don't do too much.
Interesting. What's the best that you've placed at a competition?
I'm trying to think of my last competition. My last competition was nationals that we had in Lake Placid before the season was over, and I think I placed 14th,
Right.
or 15th, but that was out of 20-something sliders. So 17th, 18th, 19th. Anyway, top 15, top 20, we'll say that.
And you mentioned that the fastest that one can go is 55 seconds.
Well, the track record in Lake Placid is 53.23, set by the bronze medalist, my teammate Matt Antoine.
Interesting.
So, I mean, like 55 seconds is the fastest I've gone. But, you know, like when you're racing people like him and people who are just as good as him and people that are on the rise to get as good as he is, because right now he's the pride and joy of America right now when it comes to skeleton. So,
Could it
you know,
be-
like we get separated by tenths, hundredths, like minuscules of a second, you know?
It's funny you mention that because those tenths of a second are so crucial between being on the podium and being maybe in fourth or fifth place going on down. What do you need to do to make sure that not only do you have the right time, but also that you can be in a position where you can get on the podium?
Well, in situations like that, when you're on the ice, you're not really thinking about the podium. You're not thinking about your time. It's you take it one curve at a time. So you get into a curve and you memorize, you know, like what you were instructed to do when you get here. Then you help yourself out of that one. Then when you get to the bottom, if you had a good run, it'll show in your time. If not, and like when you're in the track, you know, like there have been so many times when I could not get one turn right and it ruined 3 or 4 turns because of the way I exited one. It set up a bad entrance into another one. I had to do emergency steers out of that curve, and then I slammed out of the curve coming out. And, you know, all of those, you know, mishaps, you know, cost you time. So it's like, you know, like I said, like when you're doing practice runs, you work on these things so that when it gets to competition, it's like, okay, I know what to do here so that this doesn't happen, you know. But when you do something wrong, you feel it. I mean, like you graze a wall, and I mean, like it's very soft, but it feels like you're getting hit with, you know, like when it's like, it feels like someone cut you. It stings and it hurts. You have people with black and blue arms, you know, because it's brutal. But, you know, like, you know, people stay with it because they love it, you know, and I love it.
So true. Of course, as we all know, just like the skeleton, the bobsled and the luge is a competition that's been pretty much been dominated by Western Europeans. Who is the one country to watch out for that you think is the team to beat in 2018?
Well, for bobsled, the gold medalists in Russia were the Russians, but that's because they had home track advantage. But then there's that whole, anti-doping thing that they have going on, because you see how some of the Russian Summer Olympians how Russia was banned from the Summer Games because of doping, and all the other athletes that compete clean and compete fair. Like I had a teammate that, missed a bronze medal by 400th of a second. And, like she's one of the hardest workers I've known. And she's been someone that, has really like, given me some of the best advice I've had that's made me a better slider. So, I mean, like, as far as skeleton goes, I know the Latvians are, like, a really, really strong, dominant team, But, I mean, like I said, I mean, like, for as dominant as someone can be, like, at any given day, that's the beauty of athletics. Like, someone may be dominant on paper and in the past, but, any given day, you're in the chase, So, it's one of the things that I like. It's one of the things that I keep telling myself. It's like, look, I'm still kind of far behind everybody right now, but it's just like, you work towards that day where you can just start passing a few people.
It's really interesting and important that you mentioned doping, because this has been a major problem in all Olympic sports going back years. Have you been given not necessarily a talk, but also some guidance on what to look out for? That way you don't get caught up in a trap where you might be implicated in a doping scandal?
Well, I'm in no position where doping is going to personally affect me where I'm ranked right now. But, I mean, we're taught from the beginning when we first joined, like there's the organization USADA, the United States Anti-Doping Association. They come around every now and again. They do random checks. They're always staying on top of people. We have to sign papers that say, like, I agree and understand that, like, if I'm a part of anything that is a part of the anti-doping, like, I accept full responsibility for this and this and that, but just as an athlete, it's not rocket science, like, if someone's offering you something to enhance this, like, your mind should automatically, like, be, is this acceptable? But for me, I've never taken anything, and heck, I've never even taken, like, protein powder. I started for a little bit, and then I just didn't like the way I felt when I was on it. That and pre-workout. I've lifted weights, I've trained, but I've done everything just on a regular appetite and lots of water.
That's a good
So
point.
when it comes to myself, like, I train hard, and I do everything naturally, because my dad has always been against, like, protein and enhancements, because like, it's good, it has its purpose, but like everybody else, nobody likes to wait for the results. They like everything right away, so then they start to hurt their bodies by giving them too much too soon. So I mean, like, I've seen the effects of it. I've had friends that have been hospitalized because their hemoglobins have been out of whack because of so much like supplement here. And, in my mind, I'm like, why rush?
This is really interesting, because it's not just supplements, but something as simple as cold medicine could contain a banned substance. What would happen if you, for example, suffered maybe the flu or a common cold? Is there a way for you to try and get better without having to use, for example, a remedy or any type of medicine that contains a banned substance? That way you don't get in trouble?
I just sweat it out.
Really?
I had a really, really, really bad flu fever this past season, and one of my teammates, I mean, like I said, I can't speak more highly of the team and the teammates that I have with me right now, because like, even though like, I've made mistakes and like, things haven't been perfect for me, like, I have a good group of people, guys and girls, that like, have had my back in certain situations. So one night I got really, really sick, like, to the point where I almost had to be hospitalized. That's how dehydrated and how sick I was. So I had a teammate come and invited me out somewhere, and I said I wasn't feeling good. I was like, so she said, I'll come check on you in a little bit. So she knocked on my door. I came, and then, she, brought me some medicine. But, like, I was running almost 103 something as a fever. And, like, I laid in bed and it was over the weekend. I laid in bed, from a Thursday to Monday. And then Monday morning, I was still suffering a little bit, but I was back on the ice.
Wow. Amazing. Do you follow other sports at all?
Oh, of course.
In addition to competing in the skeleton? You mentioned basketball before. Do you have a favorite sport?
I am a huge fan of, well, obviously track and field, but I love all sports. I have a favorite team in every single sport that there is. I'm a huge fan of hockey. I'm a huge fan of soccer. I think soccer right now is like what I would say is my all-time favorite sport.
Do you have a favorite player in the soccer circuit?
I don't want to say a favorite. Like my favorite player was Didier Drogba, but he doesn't play anymore. I think he's retired. And then, like as far as like basketball and baseball go, like I'm a huge Phillies fan. So I'm sorry for all of you Mets and Yankees fans in New York.
We understand because as we all know, Vineland and Millville are not too far from Philadelphia, and that's where a lot of the Phillies fans are.
But you'd be surprised, in Vineland, especially now that it's more Hispanic now, you have a lot of Giants Yankees fans.
That's interesting. Probably because they made their way down there from the five boroughs.
Yeah, probably. And as far as basketball goes, no one's really a Sixers fan. They have
not anymore.
Not anymore. No, not anymore. No, I've always been a San Antonio Spurs fan.
Oh, I will say this though. Ben Simmons is a hell of a player, and I think it's just a matter of time before the Sixers can be taken a little bit seriously because they've got some good young players on that team that if they're able to work hard enough and they take the game seriously, they might be somebody to watch for in the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, I love my Philly teams. I mean, like even though they're not my favorite, because I'm close to the area, you kind of adapt to the team that's closest to you. I mean, like I'm a diehard Phillies fan, so I mean, like Phillies, Flyers, and Union, the soccer team that just came in. So I was really happy about that. That now I finally have a soccer venue, closer to home.
Do you watch football at all?
Yes,
American football.
Both.
I take it you're an Eagles fan.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Well. This I have to ask. How do you feel about Carson Wentz being your future starting quarterback?
I don't know. I mean, like at the end of the day, they're getting paid and I'm not, so my opinion really has no weight. Is how I see it. But the way also I see it is Philadelphia has been a good breeding farm for a lot of teams because all of these people that they've had and that have done decent things for them, as soon as they let them go, they end up winning championships with other teams. So, the Eagles had players that went on to win Super Bowls. The Phillies let go of the Shane Victorino. He went and won the World Series with Boston the following year. They had an all-star lineup, got rid of them. Now they're all doing bigger and better things with the teams that they've joined. So I'm like,
Unfortunately, these things happen. And we know that so well here in the five boroughs that it's basically a part of the norm. But speaking as someone who loves the Philly sports teams, Philly fans have developed a really unflattering reputation, if you ask me. From the jail at the old Veterans Stadium, to booing Santa Claus, to booing Mike Schmidt, to booing a couple that was getting married at Veterans Stadium. Their reputation has pretty much spoken for themselves. But one thing that we all agree, they're really passionate about their sports.
Well, I'm from Jersey, so I don't really, fall into that Philly stuff.
But since you're close to Jersey, why are the fans there so passionate? What makes them love their teams the way they do?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, like I'm a passionate sports fanatic because I'm an athlete myself. But I mean, like I see so many people like crying, complaining, and doing all this other stuff. And, win or lose, those guys still get paid, and that's what I keep telling myself because I'm just like, look, I've gotten disappointed. I was a really, really huge, passionate like Eagles fan. And, to the point like where I'd tear up sometimes when they lost games. And then one day my dad was just like, he's like, what you crying for? He's like, they got paid. There's no such thing as losers in professional sports. He's like, win or lose, they still get a paycheck.
That's a good point.
And I was like, you know what? And since that day, like I can watch, I win or lose, I'll be disappointed. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, my life goes on.
Big sports fan?
I like to play sports.
That's
and,
good.
I don't watch sports as much.
But you like to play it. That's actually interesting. There are many people that will play the game yet not watch it on television. In fact, one young man told me that watching the game on television is just not fun. Why is that?
Watching the game on television isn't as fun. I suppose if you feel like you can't participate in it as much as when you play on the court or on the field, I guess. I don't know.
Also, it's boring. That's how I felt growing up until I actually appreciated the sport more. Like when you have a better knowledge of the sport, then you can appreciate watching it. But like, for instance, soccer. Most people hate watching soccer because they don't know when a goal is going to come. And there are some games where no goals are scored. And some games where like the goal comes at the very, very last minute, but people hate sitting there wasting time waiting for something to happen. They'd rather be in it so that if nothing happened, they can be like, well, we tried, like it didn't happen at the time, but I mean, like for someone that, like I said, has learned to develop a love for a certain sport, it's like you learn to appreciate certain things and you learn to watch. And, like by watching, you learn formations, you learn plays, like you learn drills, you learn to see it from a different perspective. So, that's how. That's how we view it.
In addition to you competing in the skeleton, you're also an accomplished singer. And you've been doing this for quite a while, and you have been very, very good at it, too. I say this because he did the very first open mic 3 years ago?
3 years ago, yeah.
How long have you been practicing music?
Since I was 7.
So you've been doing this longer than you've been competing in the skeleton.
Yeah.
Which is the most fun, skeleton or singing?
I don't know. I mean, like in skeleton, there's always the fear of crashing and, just the adrenaline rush that comes with sliding on your stomach head first. With music, it's nice to perform, but then comes the critics. So both have give and take.
There you go.
But I've been singing longer, so, I don't want to say I love it more, but, like when I've had, days where, just skeleton just isn't, like making me happy, like music's what I turn to, like I can write about that, I can perform that, and it's home for me.
I think now is as good a time as any for you to drop a couple of tracks on us, correct?
Well, we're here because my brother-in-law has made some CDs, so we're here. I'm talking about him. You want to talk about your CDs or your work?
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Yep. It's called Shepherd Songs. And you also have another one there called Here's to the Journey. Where did your inspiration for both of those CDs come from?
Sure. Well, I intended on recording a lot more than I have up to this point professionally. But a lot of these songs come from my late teenage and early 20s on these tracks. I've continued to write music since then, but a lot of these I tried to dig back to some of the earlier music that I wrote, and that's where I recorded Here's to the Journey first, and then Shepherd Songs after that. The inspiration being what gets me through life, and much like in sports, I think in life you have to have a certain tenacity and a certain fight to get through the ups and downs of life. So that's what my songs are about. A lot of them come straight from Scripture, from the Bible, which is where I find a lot of my personal inspiration. But they also are just my own lyrics and things like that. So.
And before he married my sister, when I was, I think, 8 or 9, I really wanted to learn drums. He was my drum teacher.
That's interesting.
So we have a history, and then while I was taking drum lessons from him, he briefly taught me guitar, and that's where my love for guitar at the age of 9 started coming in, and he also taught me a little bit of bass. So, and I've just been practicing all fluently since then, so,
Was he a good teacher?
He was a great teacher.
Was he a good student?
Very much so, yeah. He picked it up. He's very talented, so that with a little bit of teaching, he flourished, so he does a really good job.
And 3 years ago when I was here doing your open mic, that was when I was releasing my album, and we performed together. He opened the show for me, so that was we've kind of been, I don't want to say side by side, but whenever it comes to music and anything like that, I'm always making sure that he's got some part to do with it, just because we like performing together. We always have. So I mean, to be honest, like when I've been having bad days on the road or traveling or just in personal life, like his songs are very, very, very encouraging. So like those are some of the songs that we came prepared to sing for you guys today.
Good. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a really quick timeout, okay? And then you're gonna be coming in, and you're also gonna bring a friend of yours onto the set. So we're going to have a first on In the Bleachers. We're going to have live music. Stick around.
Hey guys, I'm Anthony Watson. Again, this is my brother-in-law Joel Howard, and we're just here to play some special music on this awesome TV show. But I just wanted to let you know that you can get my brother's albums called Here's to the Journey, and also my personal favorite, the Shepherd Songs. And you can get those on either iTunes or just on iTunes, and then there are a few other links that you can get those at. But this one song that we're going to sing is called Send Me Into Your Harvest, and it's a song that's my personal favorite because it's gotten me through some hard times when you deal with just judgmental people and situations in life that really seem impossible. But you know, we don't hide who we are. We're men of faith, and we believe that, you know, Jesus is in control. And you know, as believers, he gave us a job to go in and, you know, just to love on people that don't know who he is. So the beauty of that is that, you know, is that just Jesus loves you, and, you know, he just wants to show you how special you are to him. And, you know, we want to tell you how special you are to us and to him through this song that we have. This is called Send Me Into Your Harvest. There is a crowd full of people beaten down by the weight of the world. Hundreds and thousands, helpless and outcast, sheep without a shepherd to lead them along. And one by one they fall out of my reach and die. But they are your harvest, your plentiful harvest, oh Lord. Send me into your harvest, oh Lord, I cry, won't you make me like Jesus and open my eyes, let me see what you see and feel what you feel. So give me your heart for the lost, send me into your harvest.
I walk around aimlessly, watching my feet, only wanting for me. When time's running out and the harvest is now, I'm sorry for what I believe. Jesus, please take all of me.
Send me into your harvest, oh Lord, I cry, won't you make me like Jesus and open my eyes, let me see what you see and feel what you feel. So give me your heart for the lost, send me into your harvest. Your mercy, oh God, is new every day. Your love, oh Lord, is eternal. The Lord is my shepherd, and I won't want at all. He's my confidence and my fortress, all creation praise him. He's my confidence and my fortress. There is a crowd full of people beaten down by the weight of the world. Hundreds and thousands, helpless and outcast, sheep without a shepherd to lead them along. And one by one they fall out of my reach and die. But they are your harvest, your plentiful harvest, oh Lord. They bountiful harvest, oh Lord. Send me into your harvest. Oh Lord, I cried, won't you make me like Jesus and open my eyes, let me see what you see and feel what you feel. So give me your heart for the lost. Give me your heart for the lost. Oh, give me your heart for the lost. Send me into your harvest. Thank you, guys, and God bless.
Good fight of faith we fight, following wisdom and instruction, power to demolish anything that's evil and contrary to the King. Amen. Come soon. Here's to the journey. Here's to the fighter inside. Here's to a new day. And the way we try to get there, all of the long road, made up by one step at a time. Here's to the journey of our lives, the journey of our lives. It's time to take hold of the life we've been called to. Again and again, telling each thought what not to do. So King, amen, come soon. Here's to the journey. Here's to the fighter inside. Here's to a new day. And the way we try to get there, all of the long road, made up by one step at a time. Here's to the journey of our lives. We must know this is a fight. Living strong, the fight of faith. Today is to the journey. Here's to the fighter inside. Here's to a new day. And the way we try to get there, all of the long road, made up by one step at a time. Here's to the journey of our lives. Here's to the journey. Here's to the fighter inside you. Here's to a new day. And the way we try to get there, all of the long road, made up by one step at a time. Here's to the journey of our lives, the journey of our lives. Thank you. So this next one is called Grace, and the opening line is, "We've been through oceans." And as a believer, I believe that the Lord, God, has given us so much grace, so much opportunity in our lives, so much opportunity in my life, and I know in yours, to choose the right thing and to do the right thing. And so this is a song about just how much grace that he gives to you and I every day. I've been through oceans, I've been through oceans already. We are repeating this theme. I thought I had graduated from this class, but I'm finding that there really is no way to pass. I think I'm swimming, but I find I'm drowning fast in grace. I'm looking for the only way, the only way I'll make it through. The only way I'll make it through and not be burned is by grace. You've been through fire, and you've been through fire already. Stubble's falling from your side. You're looking more beautiful, more beautiful than before, more beautiful than before, and I know for sure it's 'cause of grace. I'm looking for the only way, the only way I'll make it through. The only way I'll make it through and not be burned is by grace. It's by grace. I'm looking for the only way, the only way. I'm never gonna make it through. The only way I'll make it through and not be burned is by grace. By grace. It's by grace.
Well, thank you guys for having us as guests on your show. We love it here. This is like a second home to us, and everyone here is amazing. So this is our last song that we're going to, I guess, close the show with. So it's a song that my brother-in-law wrote called Intimacy, and there have been a lot of moments where things have gotten a little shaky in my life, but when it comes down to it, God just really wants to be your friend. and he really wants to tell you how much he loves you. You know, he's not this big bully that a lot of people make him out to be. And when you get into those quiet moments, when you're alone with him, he just really wants to show you all the good things that he has planned for you. So this song has always been a testimony to my life, and you know, just a real encouragement. So we hope that, you know, you guys like it. How I long to be in the arms of my Father, just to rest in the shadow of his wing. How my heart longs for intimacy with the one who made me and who wants that so much more than me. My Father, I'm tired, but here I come to meet with you. Feel I'm trying, but nothing happens as I seek to please you and earn your love. But I hear you say to me, with your arms open wide, that my child, I'm always with you, and all I have is yours. It's all yours. So won't you let me pour my grace over you? Won't you let me pour my grace over you? Won't you let me pour my grace over you, my child, my friend, the one I love, the one I see, the one who's close to me.
Hear the Lord sing over you, you precious child. See the Father on to meet you and hold you as you are. Touch the beauty of the face of Jesus. Taste the love of the water he pours over you. Smell the fragrance of the rose of righteousness he wraps around you. And rest in the Lord. How I long to be in the arms of my Father, just to rest in the shadow of his wing. How my heart longs for intimacy with the one who made me and who wants that so much more than me.
Well, guys, it's been real. Again, make sure you check out my brother-in-law. His name is Joel Howard. You can look him up on iTunes. His albums are the Shepherd Songs and Here's to the Journey. So from everyone here at CTV, we say thank you and goodbye.